Hey guys, welcome to Wildwood Studio. I'm Sarah, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how I did this little sign. I want to make this as kind of a beginner tutorial on how to do text, but hopefully if I have any more experienced burners watching, you'll find it interesting as well. Since I mostly want to go into detail on how I did the text, but I will also be showing how I did the border and talking about that a little bit. There is of course more than one way to burn text, but I'm just going to talk about how I did it, and I think that this sign has a good variety of different fonts on it, so it'll be a good example. Anywho, let's get started. So the first thing I had to do was decide what my sign was going to say, and for this I used this funny little box of sayings that my dad gave me for Christmas. There are a bunch of funny ones in here, and some of them are kind of rude, so I didn't go for one of those, but I just picked this one because I thought it was entertaining but not too aggressive. For instance, I thought this one was pretty funny but maybe a bit too much for something I'm gonna hang on my wall. Next, I decided on my border. I'm just going to be doing another Celtic knot, and I transferred that onto the wood as well. This is not something you have to do first, I just did. It gave me a better idea of what size I needed the text to be. For this knot, I drew it freehand in my sketchbook using a book that I have about Celtic knot construction, but I was working off of a straight design, so I had to figure out what to do with the corners, which was a nice challenge for me off of just kind of copying something. What I ended up doing was drawing 4 different corner ideas in this drawing, and then I just picked the one I liked best and duplicated it. If you're just starting out with burning and you don't want to go to all this trouble, you can always just size and trace a knot off of the internet, or choose something else entirely to decorate the area around your text. Either way, I just transferred this onto my piece of wood using a bit of tracing paper, after lots and lots of sanding to get it very smooth, of course, because that always makes your life easier. The great thing about Celtic knots is they're pretty much symmetrical, or at least it makes no difference if I flip it, so I don't have to worry about tracing on both sides of the paper, which just saves a little bit of time. After it was on the wood, I went back over it and made all the pencil lines clearer for myself to follow, and also made sure I wasn't going to accidentally rub them off with my hand. And the next step from there is to decide on how I want the text to look. For this I'm going to use Photoshop because this gives me more options, but I have done it before using Microsoft Word, and you can basically just use any word processor that has a bunch of different fonts. So once I put together my layout, which I kind of did just by deciding which fonts I thought looked best beside which other ones and kind of making it into the square that I wanted and making sure the words that I wanted emphasized were emphasized by the different types of fonts, I took a screenshot of it and opened it up as a JPEG, which allows me to size the text just by zooming it in or out, so I adjusted it until I knew it would fit inside my border. Now my favorite trick for this is just being able to reverse the image before you start tracing. This saves time because you just have to trace the one side, and then when you flip it over, the text will be the right way around, so you don't have to draw over it an extra time, which I'm always all for, not having to do things over and over again if you don't have to. The responsible thing to do now is to print it out on a piece of paper and hold it up to a light board or a window to trace it. I'm going to trace directly off my computer screen, which is probably bad for it, but it's my computer and I've done it before and I've never done any damage yet. I use a very light hand. I try not to press too hard on my screen because it's bad for it. I don't recommend you do this with your technology because if you break it, I don't want it to be my fault. So print it and use a light board, or use your computer screen at your own risk. Once I'd transferred this onto the wood, I just once again went over it to fix up all the pencil lines and make sure that they were thick enough that I wasn't going to rub them off with my hands. Now I wanted to burn the border first, just to get out of the way. This took way longer than expected. I mean, as usual, I always estimate that things will take way less time than they do. I added in some extra hatching and shading at the crossover points of the knots, and I decided to shade in the background behind the knot just to make it stand out more. Since I want this video to mostly be about the text, I'm going to move on now, but if you want even more detail on how I did this Celtic knot work here with my burner, I have a video where I did some knots on a jewelry box, so if you haven't seen that one yet, I'll be sure to link to it so that you can watch it after this one. Now on to burning the text. The simplest way to burn text is with the small ball tip pen, so that is what I'm going to do first, and it's really good for smaller, rounder letters. I'm going to be using it here to do the words is about and finding. This is something that's pretty easy with a bit of practice, and it is good if you want to transcribe a long saying or say like a whole poem or a whole portion from a song or something onto one of your burnings, because it doesn't take very long. It's not so good, however, if you want a really squared off text, because there is an inherent roundness to the shape of the tip, and it's also not great for big letters because it's really hard to maintain a consistent pressure with this, and it has a tendency to sink into the wood and leave unwanted spots. That is, of course, unless you're really good with this pen, which some people are. I'm I'm just not. The next bits of text I'm going to do are the smaller words, that are, kind, and of. For these, I want them to be less round because they're all capital letters, so I'm going to use my knife tip pen to outline them all first. This pen is really great for thin, straight lines, but it doesn't do so well on tight curves, so if you have any small round letters, then you can use a small spear tip pen for that part, and I will be showing that later. So for the word of, I'm just leaving that as thin letters, so that's the easiest one. For the word kind, I'm going to leave it as a hollow outline, so it's really important that I pay attention to those lines. And for the words who are, I want them to be solid but square looking, so after I've outlined them, I'm just going to fill them in with the ball tip pen. Finally, I have my 4 remaining words, which are all larger and in cursive writing. For this, I'm going to use 3 pens. My knife tip pen, my small spear tip pen, and my ball tip pen. The knife tip pen, as I said, is good for outlines. It's really great for straight lines and gradual curves, but I'm going to use the spear tip pen to do some of the tighter curves. Then I'm going to go and fill in the letters for the word people using the ball tip pen. I decided for the words life and your that I just want to leave them as hollow outlines for some variation in my text, and for the word crazy, because it's the largest, I'm going to be shading it mostly using my spoon shader pen, which is this one. It covers larger areas quicker and with a smoother finish, but it would have been too thick for all of my other letters. So if I was going to be doing a really big sign, I would have just used my knife tip pen because you don't have any really tight curves and really large letters, and my spoon shader because I find that it leaves a smoother, more uniform shade. I really hope this was helpful. I do want to try and make some more tutorial style videos about basic techniques, but I am still going to be doing more complex burnings for the most part. That being said, if anyone has an idea for something they'd like to see as a tutorial, you can leave that in the comments below. So here's the finished sign, and as an added bonus for making it this far, here's another one I did. I made this one first, but I wasn't totally happy with how the flowers turned out. I just thought they were kind of weak. So I decided to do a different one for the video, but I mean, this one's still probably worth showing. Why not? As always, please let me know what you think in the comments, and if you want to see more of my work, you can check out my Facebook page or follow me on Instagram, where I've started posting some work in progress videos and photos before the videos come out. Also, please make sure to like this video if you haven't already, and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss all my future art videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.